Now, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in Kazakhstan today in the middle of a three-day visit to Central Asia with the aim of strengthening relations with the countries in that region. He's attending a summit with the region's 5 former Soviet republics. His talks in Kazakhstan are set to focus on oil and gas supplies to Germany. On Sunday, he signed a bilateral migration agreement with Uzbekistan. Now, the region is heavily influenced by Russia. And DW's Russia correspondent Juri Rescheto is in Kazakhstan and filed this report from the Kazakhstan-Russian border region.
It's like a battle hundreds of years ago. Russian horsemen clash with nomads from the Kazakh steppe. Russia against Kazakhstan, two rivals at the World Nomad Games in Astana. And in real life? We travel to northern Kazakhstan, to the village of Mamlyutka, just 40 kilometers from the Kazakh-Russian border. Many people here have connections in Russia, business partners, friends, relatives. Kazakh citizens don't need a visa to cross the border, and many take advantage of it. 7,000 people live in Mamlyutka. Ethnic Russians, Kazakhs, Ukrainians, Tatars. The Russian language has been dominant in everyday life here. For Indira Usimbayeva, that's something new. She came to Mamlyutka with her family just 3 years ago, from the south of Kazakhstan. Indira is bringing up 6 sons. Her husband is in the military and seldom at home. In the south, she says, only Kazakh was spoken. But here in the north, now her boys have to learn Russian. The Usimbayevs moved house as part of a state development program for northern Kazakhstan.
Everyone said, what? You're moving to the north? That's where the Russians live. That's where the border is. Are you crazy? Well, this isn't a Russian country. This is our country. My patriotism told me I have to move here.
But to love Kazakhstan, you don't have to be an ethnic Kazakh. That's according to Indira's neighbor Olga Semyonova, who is Russian. She has lived in Mamlyutka for many years and now dedicates her life to her flower garden. When she worked as a businesswoman, Olga used to benefit from the nearby border.
I love Kazakhstan. I call myself a Russian Kazakh. You won't find this warm-heartedness, this hospitality anywhere else. Whenever I visit people, I never go home empty-handed.
A total of 3 million ethnic Russians live in Kazakhstan. Moscow is considered a strategic partner of Astana, politically, militarily and economically. And yet studies show that a third of the population is not ruling out a Russian attack on Kazakhstan, similar to the invasion of Ukraine.
That's a lot if you take into account all the good neighborly and strategic relations. We see differences between the language groups. People whose mother tongue is Kazakh perceive this threat as more realistic compared to the Russian-speaking population.
Sociologists say Russia's war in Ukraine has changed the mindset of people in the former Soviet Republic.
The value of our independence has increased. More and more people are now learning Kazakh, including Russian speakers. Our identity is changing. We know that Kazakhstan is also vulnerable to external aggression. The threat from outside unites our society.
Indira Usimbayeva is a history teacher. She knows that her country has also been at war several times. Is the mother of 6 sons afraid that her boys will one day have to go to war against Russia?
I don't want a war, of course, but I'm not afraid. Everything is God's will. I'm not afraid. I pray and thank God for the peaceful sky we have now.
On this evening, the sky of Mamlyutka near the Russian border is peaceful. And the final score at the World Nomad Games in Astana is conclusive. Kazakhstan has overcome Russia. But this is just a game.
Well, joining me now is DW's Riga Bureau Chief Juri Rescheto, who filed that report, and he's in the Kazakh capital, Astana. Juri, Chancellor Scholz is on his first visit to Central Asia. Why Kazakhstan?
Well, Terry, Kazakhstan is the largest country in the region. Kazakhstan and Germany, Kazakhstan and the EU cooperate very closely because Kazakhstan supplies a lot of oil to the EU and therefore makes up for the lack of oil supplies from Russia due to the Western sanctions. But around 90% of Kazakhstan's oil is exported to the EU via the pipeline that runs through Russia. And this is, of course, risky if Russia turns off the oil tap one day. So good relations between Kazakhstan and Moscow, between Astana and Moscow, are therefore very important. Also, today's meeting between Chancellor Scholz here in Astana and Kazakh President Tokayev takes place in the run-up to the so-called 5+1 summit, which will take place tomorrow here in Astana. All 5 heads of state of the Central Asian countries will then discuss Europe's energy security. A year ago, we have to keep in mind, Chancellor Scholz invited them all to Berlin. The follow-up meeting is planned for tomorrow here in Astana.
Now, Kazakhstan has not participated in the EU-backed sanctions against Russia. Is Germany seeking to change Astana's position on that, Yuri?
Well, Terry, I had an opportunity to talk about this to the Deputy Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan, Mr. Roman Vasilenko, here in Astana last week. He told me very clearly that Kazakhstan's official position is neutral. Astana supports neither Moscow nor Kiev. However, Mr. Vasilenko told me that the country is ready to act as a mediator in the peace negotiations. The condition is that both sides, Russia and Ukraine, would ask Kazakhstan to do so, which hasn't happened so far. So why is Kazakhstan so neutral? First of all, he said, the country shares a huge border with Russia, 7,500 kilometers. It's the longest land border in the world. Also, Kazakhstan is a military ally of Moscow, with 90% of all arms imports coming from Russia. And we have to keep in mind, Russia rents not only the Cosmodrome Baikonur here in the Kazakh steppe for Roscosmos, but also 3 military training areas for Russian soldiers with about 900 soldiers. So the German Chancellor can hardly change Kazakhstan's position, but his visit could help to secure Europe's energy as a consequence of the war in Ukraine.
Yuri, thank you very much. That was DW's Juri Rescheto from the Kazakh capital, Astana.
And we can speak now with DW's chief political editor, Michaela Küffner, who is travelling with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and joins me now from Astana in Kazakhstan. Michaela, Kazakhstan is, of course, wedged between Russia and China, countries which wield significant influence in Central Asia. Was the Chancellor made to feel that fact today?
Well, he certainly knows that no country can escape its geographic position. And it's one of the longest land borders in the world that Kazakhstan shares with Russia. So what was pretty much off the official agenda, but very much on everybody's mind, is how much of a role Kazakhstan plays in dual-use goods reaching Russia, which it uses to arm up against Ukraine. And that is something that is hanging like a cloud over these talks, which were very much focused on energy, on business, on the future. And there were Kazakh news agencies which quoted Kazakhstan's President Tokayev as apparently saying that Russia cannot be beaten militarily. Now, we as journalists here got the chance to ask the German Chancellor about it, and he basically wouldn't comment on those closed-door talks, but made it very clear that now was the time to see what is possible in terms of peace talks. So far, these countries here in the region have not had much of a role in those, but what the Chancellor is trying to secure is that at least behind closed doors, they are in favor of a fast and peaceful resolution of that war of aggression by Russia, although they will never admit and never publicly say that it's a war of aggression, because they know that Russia still considers them not their backyard, their front yard.
So what is Olaf Scholz's sales pitch then? I mean, do Germany and Europe stand a chance in the face of these very stark geopolitical realities?
Well, they are trying to link these Central Asian countries closer to Germany. He was in Uzbekistan yesterday. That's where he signed a migration deal, which was very much about bringing Uzbeks to Germany, skilled labor to Germany, which is badly needed there. Also, big businesses are here, and Olaf Scholz has made a global pledge that wherever raw materials, and we're talking green hydrogen, we're talking oil, gas, but also copper, is exported from a country, that the first level of production should remain within that country. So essentially, Germany is trying to offer a more interesting package than Russia or certainly China can, who like to just exploit raw materials and ship them back. And we heard the President Tokayev here in Kazakhstan say he wants to produce made in Germany quality, made in Kazakhstan. So if that's an aim he has, he needs European partners as well. So it highlights the tricky situation and the important situation these Central Asian states are in.
Michaela Küffner bringing us up to date from Astana in Kazakhstan. Michaela, thank you so much.